Team, big news. We are launching the new scheduling system next week. So I'm excited. Where are we at with things?
I just finished my part. Here's what I built.
Oh, I built something completely different.
Oh, darn. Ugh. Okay, did I forget to mention that we got feedback and we're actually going in a very different direction? Here, let me show you the rough draft design really quick.
That's like a complete reset. We can't use anything we've already built.
I know, yeah. But you know what? It was a great learning experience. Anyway, so we're running short on time now with the launch next week. So everybody, I guess let's just pick something and let's start somewhere. All right, everybody, welcome to Sanity Pending Podcast. I'm Holly and this is Amber. And today, today's episode is inspired by a very specific kind of energy. We're calling it a Leroy Jenkins moment where, everything starts with excitement, Amber, and high energy, and people are hyped and they're ready to go, but there's always another side, right? When there's no plan or like any clear direction, it's just pure chaos. And eventually those projects lose steam. And, at least in my experience, when that sort of like pattern happens over and over and over again, where everybody came with great ideas and things fizzle out, I don't know about you, but then I get less excited to show up for the next one. And I sort of like lose interest and I don't care to contribute to the next effort. You know what I mean? What about you? Do you have any good examples or anything that comes to mind when you just like when we had the idea of a Leroy Jenkins episode? What came to mind for you?
Oh, okay. Well, first I had to go and watch the video. So for those who may not know what a Leroy Jenkins is, it is, I don't even remember the game, but it's a video game. Thank you.
Yes.
And so then it's a group of people and their characters, and they've got a plan. So they're talking about the plan ahead of and they're going to say when we open this door, here's what everybody's going to do. So that way we can guarantee success. Right. And so then as they open the door and they go in, a whole other character who was not a part of that plan or agreement just comes flying in and just does their own thing, but it creates this chaotic environment that everything about their plan now was taken from them. They were just trying to survive in these characters, right? And so, and there's also a very, very humorous moment because the voice that screams in, that yells Leroy Jenkins is just this Leroy Jenkins, right? And so it's hysterical. So if you've not seen it, please go check. It's been around for a number of years now. To the point that it's become in the vernacular of kind of understanding and knowing for those who are aware, right, of what a Leroy Jenkins means. And so to answer your question though, I am not very comfortable with chaos. I am not a chaos creator. I am in that group. I would probably be the person who is telling the plan to everyone else. Here's what we're going to do. And so when I've put in the effort of communicating a plan, getting agreement around that plan, because that's really hard work to get agreement on the plan. To be able to specifically call out people and their gifts and their and I say gifts as a way of very kindly saying, here's what you're good at, right? Or here's what you've agreed to do. You're going to do this and you're going to do that. And you're just kind of affirming that everyone is in agreement about what's going to happen. And once that agreement is made, it's like, hey, this is the thing that's going to happen and this is what we're going to do. So when chaos comes in and interrupts that, I get real pissed off because it feels like a waste of time and it's not efficient. And I get real mad about inefficiencies. And it doesn't mean that chaos doesn't have a place. It doesn't mean that you can't learn from the chaos, right? But it also feels like an intentional disruption when there didn't need to be one. Just somebody who enjoys creating pain in others. And I get, because that's what it feels like an attack against those who, right? Because
Yeah. It does kind of ruffle my feathers a little bit because, like you, Amber, I am a planner. I'm a prepper and a planner, right? I like my notebook with my task list and all this stuff. So any sort of like Leroy Jenkins or like I know other people are like YOLO moments, you know what I mean? I'm just kind of like I get stressed out a little bit, it kind of makes me, it does weird things to my brain where I'm looking for order and a structure and there is none. I can still get excited in the moment when there's a problem that's presented to the group and, people are like, hey, let's throw out some ideas. Let's just start, discussing some potential solutions here. And people are getting creative and they're coming up with all these ideas. I get excited about that too. I love those kinds of moments where it's just, it's a like ordered chaos where it's like you're coming up with ideas and you're kind of jotting them down. But then there's a voice in my head that's like, great, so we've got all this. Now what? How are we going to put a plan to this? Like, how are we going to actually accomplish this? It's one thing to have an idea to fix a problem or to, come up with a solution. It's an entirely different thing to like make it happen. And when there is no process or structure, it's not intentional. It's like, this unorganized chaos, which I can't stand. But that's also where I kind of see, like, I differentiate leaders from employees. And I'm like, I feel like it falls on the leader to maintain that excitement, but also provide direction. I don't believe that things should constantly be pushed down all the time. Yes, it's one thing to have like a project manager who's like, hey, I'm going to run with this, whatever. But like the direction, like that high level overview, like, I'm sorry, we still need some leadership in some of this stuff. And I think, or like the bad cases that I've recalled are like leaders have checked out and they're like, hey, I'm giving it to employees to own. And I'm like, bad idea.
Yeah, because there needs to be some kind of responsibility. And I'm sure it's because there's a safety for me in understanding a plan and control. And chaos represents something that I might not be able to protect myself, right? So for me, it's about safety, which is why I think I take it personally.
Yeah.
When it's an individual who just loves and enjoys the chaos, and that's their comfort level, is just to like shake things up. And I wish I had. I know, right? I wish I had that comfort level of being able to, or I just don't even know what that feels like. I'm not even sure that I'd enjoy it.
I was going to say, I kind of like how like everything feels so ordered. I kind of like it. Yes. I don't want to change it. Right. But I also get the value of the other thing, like what you're saying. I can understand the value on the other side, but I don't want to change mine. I like my order and
right. But I think I just wish that it didn't make me rise to that bait.
Yeah.
I think is what I wish I wasn't so outwardly and visibly impacted by it in a way that it could be used as an intentional ploy to, if somebody didn't like me or whatever, like
I know what you're saying.
Use it as weaponize that chaos.
Yes, weaponize. That's a good way to phrase it.
Against the need for control, because at least my experience and what I have seen, when people understand what the plan is, when people know that they are safe and appreciating and knowing what's coming next, and knowing how some people like the consistency of behavior. So from your examples, like from a leader down, that they know that this is how their leader is going to respond to this. And there's a safety and a comfort in that offers their ability to not have to worry and take on the word that comes to mind is like the emotional labor of it. Sometimes you just don't want to carry a lot of emotional labor around tasks and working with individuals. So some of the ways that we can easily get through a lot of these scenarios and situations is when you know how someone is going to potentially respond. And having that understanding, when something turns out different, then you're just like, But if somebody is constantly acting different and they're mercurial and you just don't know, like, who are they going to be in each day or each moment, that's a level of chaos that I think adds to the emotional labor of others and being able to, and for me, having to put forth that much energy it is what causes me to check out. It's like no longer, like, I'm no longer having fun here, guys. And fun is loose word here. But just in the sense of like, I understand what's happening and now I don't know what's happening at any moment. And I'm supposed to be prepared for any eventuality. I'm sorry. No, I only want to pull from eventualities in this bucket because I've got them already organized.
Yeah. Absolutely. No. And I've definitely been in the case where it's so chaotic and it's so disorganized that even leaders let those things sort of like fizzle out because they're just like, it's gotten so messy. Like, how do we make sense of it? You know what I mean? And then it's very discouraging, especially when you can't. They're like, hey, we value your input, right? Like, come on in. We would love to hear, like, y'all have so much value to bring to these conversations. We want to hear all of your great ideas. And then you go and you give all these ideas and what the heck? What happened to all the suggestions? We had a suggestion box. Is anybody reading it? What are you guys doing? You know what I mean? Like you lose the interest or you lose that motivation to like contribute ideas that would advance either the goals of the company, the team, whatever. And then now you've just got people who are, again, just there that we're clocking in, we're doing a thing and we're getting out. Like there's no creativity, there's no innovation, there's none of this stuff happening. So I've definitely been there. So I'm curious then for I feel like I know your answer, but I'm just out of curiosity. And this doesn't even have to be like in a work setting too. I'm just curious in general. Do you think chaos can be a good thing? It doesn't have to be, confined to a work setting.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Me too. I do too. The YOLO moments. I just have so many good YOLO moments, but what's one that worked well? Turned out great for you?
I think that it's the one where I'm pleasantly surprised, where I'm moving along on a certain path, right? And then all of a sudden there's this chaos interrupter and it causes me to pause and go, I didn't think of it that way. I didn't, that offered a new perspective and that was, kind of really different for me. And I actually kind of really like that. So, and I'm trying to think of the specific story around it rather than just kind of a general sense, but it might be some more personally kind of related to this entrepreneur journey that I'm on. I thought that I knew exactly how things were going to work out and I had it all lined up and working. And then I very, very pleasantly had quite a very chaotic kind of interrupter that caused me to rethink where I was going and what I was doing in a way that's actually created a whole other plan that's gotten me very excited. And it's kind of the new thing that I'm pursuing. So the caveat to this is that the chaos was presented at the appropriate time. I'm going to use my words here, whether they're right or wrong, but at the appropriate time that I was still in the planning stage. So I might have been planning and kind of moving forward, but when things are my own, I have a little bit more flexibility because it's just me who's kind of collecting that agreement. So if I'm the only decision maker, or the only person, right, who has to, I have more fluidity to kind of flex and bend. When more people are involved, I feel there's less ability to flex and bend because there's more voices and more thoughts. And so I prefer chaos when it's just me. I detest chaos when it's a group because how much I love group projects. You know how much I love group projects.
Yeah, tell me about it. Oh my God. Don't even get me started.
So I tend to have a better appreciation for chaos when it's just me and I'm the only one impacted. When there's more than one, and because again, it's that emotional labor. When I'm the one in charge or I'm a part of the group, I have this nurturing sense that everybody, I can see all the things of how it's going to affect this person because I know this about them and all that, right? And it's a lot of work in addition to the work coming up with the plan. And so having chaos kind of be an intrusion to that processing makes it feel less fun, exciting, and adoptable to consider. Whereas in my personal life, oh my gosh, there's chaos everywhere. And I can appreciate that. And I think it's exciting and fun. And I am more willing to see it as information and just be okay, thank you for the information. And then I can choose to go with it or not because it's just me. So
group projects, no, never. But I was going to say, I feel like maybe mine is a little of the opposite where I have more fun, if you will, when there's chaos in a work setting. I don't know why it feels less risky to me when it's at work because I'm it's not my money. It's not the outcomes, it doesn't affect me personally. So it's if you all, and by you all, I mean the company, leaders, whatever you want to, but if you all really have want this to work out, you're going to make sure we have the resources we need and like give us direction and leadership to achieve these goals that, you know, you've set for us. Whereas like in my personal life, I want to be like that YOLO person, like, hey, we're going to go do it. But it's a little like, I'm more apprehensive. It's a little more risky to me. But that being said, I have taken recently, same as you, some big risks lately, and they did work out well. So, but I say that it doesn't always work out that way. And I think it's okay to be a little like, you know, I think you need to be more of a planner and a prepper in those cases. You need to have like your contingency sort of thought out and like other alternative plans. Whereas when I'm in the work setting, yes, I'm still a planner and I like to have structure, but I'm also more willing to be flexible and like zoom out, try some different things, maybe do things outside the parameter of the project. And I know that sounds so controversial, like, but the scope, like that's outside the scope. But I'm like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that there, usually, generally, like not in all cases, but I'm more okay with trying things out in a work setting than I am in my personal life. But no, I'm with you that I don't think that chaos is like bad by default. I definitely don't.
No, I find that really, really fascinating, right? Because I found myself to be much more uptight at work than who I am now. I find that I am more playful with decisions and
really?
Like,
you're braver than me, but you are brave. I've always thought that about you. No, you definitely
you
are.
consider that brave?
Yes.
I just consider it like trying all different things. And honestly, I think it's because, and this may be a weird way to think of it, but I don't feel as much pressure. I only need to answer to myself. And because of that, like it is so much easier to give myself grace for playing and trying something new, even though the risk is high because it is my own money and it is my livelihood and it is, right? Yeah. But I have the ability now when I don't have what feels like so many people watching me, so many people relying on me, so many, like that pressure is gone and in its place gives me this like, oh man, I feel much cooler as a person, and much more chill. I'm not chill, freer. But I am definitely more chill than who I was at work. And maybe it's just like that level of responsibility. It's like I get to set what is the status.
Oh yeah. I mean, I do like to say, like, I do like that for sure. I like being the boss. Like, I like being the one that decides, like, this is what the goal is. Yeah. This is how, like, I like that. Don't get me wrong. For sure. I like that. I think I was thinking more about like my willingness to just like try things willy-nilly. I'm a little more like careful about like what I'm willing to try. And I'm like trying to manage my risk more carefully than I would have like in a work setting where I'm like, it's not my money.
Right. The investment, like they're fronting the investment. And so you're investing time into seeing if this thing will work. Whereas it's like a double investment when it's personal because it is both monetary and it is both time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a lot more careful, I should say. Careful is a good way for me to put it because I do, instead of just like coming up with the plan, I come up with the plan and then I overthink it, you know, like give me a few months to think it over, really like, you know, make some contingencies, like really think out how I'm going to accomplish this step by step. And sometimes we know in a work setting, you don't always have that kind of time to think about it at that in depth. So sometimes it feels like you're flying by the seat of your pants. Like, oh, this is due next Friday. Well, great. That would have been nice to know we had a timeline before we got assigned the project, you know, things like that. Whereas like when it's our stuff, like, again, I want to be extra careful and really think things through. I'm less Leroy Jenkins in my personal life than I was at work. Not to say that I was like the Leroy Jenkins person, but no. Yeah, that's what I've seen.
I have never been a Leroy Jenkins, but I think that's why I find it so funny is because just watching, like not being, now if that happened to me, I'd be so pissed, right? But kind of like watching it happen. Yes, I have empathy for kind of like understanding what each of those roles were, but there's something just really humorous about this, just like the Kool-Aid man. Just busting in, right? Like, busting down the wall. And I don't remember what he says. Like, I just remember him busting through the walls.
I just remember the kids screaming when he like busted in the door. Like, and you're right, he says something, but I can't not remember the kid's expression. Like whenever he did it, it's
just know he comes busting through some brick wall. Which okay, so let's talk about that, because if he's a huge glass pitcher and he is busting through a brick wall, wouldn't his glass break?
Okay,
or is
Amber,
it like
that would be the thing that you focus on. That would be the piece that you focus on. Nothing else about it, but wait a minute, pause. Let's talk about how he's able to do this, like physically. Excuse me. That's perfect imagery for like like a Leroy Jenkins moment. Like that's kind of how it feels sometimes, especially if it's a single individual that is like always causing the chaos. You know what I mean? And usually it's a negative person who I've never had a moment where it was an innocently, like if it was a single individual causing chaos, that it was like an innocent act. It was always malicious feels like too strong of a word, but it's, a person who's negative and who always like brings that negative energy to everything. You know what I mean? It's always that.
I have the same experience. Yeah. Like I do not have, maybe that's why I feel so like about it.
Yeah.
Is because I've never had a positive experience. It's always been somebody who is kind of, malicious isn't the right word.
Yeah, but it feels too strong, but yeah.
It does. It just feels like it's the only way that they learned how to be heard. Was
on that
right?
note, for me, it was like to be heard. It was almost like they went off and did their own thing. I'm like, wait a minute, like that wasn't the direction we were going. They're like, well, I did all this stuff. Here it is. I'm like, that's not what you were supposed to be doing, or that's not the direction we're going. And I think, like to your point, maybe it was to be heard. Like, I don't like the role I have in this or that whatever. So I'm going to go off and do my own thing. Like, I don't know. I almost wonder, I hadn't thought of it, but I almost wonder if it was a pay attention to me kind of moment,
That's how I saw it.
Yeah.
Or like, but I also saw it as more than chaos or less chaos, maybe more derailment. So, and so I wonder if I'm also confusing the two, right?
Maybe.
So there is an element that a chaos can present itself as a derailer, and maybe it's more of those moments to be heard, because there were, certainly times where it was like, I can't be a part of this unless these things are explained, and they had nothing to do, right?
Yeah,
like,
meet these conditions here? I'll send you. I'll have my lawyer fax it over.
Why are we not addressing these things, or why are we? And it's always asked in such a way that like they're more of a demand, like, and that's where it kind of feels like they are conditions, like, well, has anybody thought of this? And I'm gonna make the face and do the, like, has anybody thought of this? And so there could be validity to that question of, well, what are you imagining? Like, what are you seeing that, like? Instead of asking this really kind of passive-aggressive question, why don't you just state what it is that you're seeing?
Yeah.
Instead, like, be part of this. And so, yes, it does seem to come with a personality type.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Maybe when I am mentioning chaos, I think I'm talking about chaotic people, not chaotic events.
Yeah, like the moment itself. Yeah.
And they just make like just thinking of these individuals, and I just want to go like, I am not a violent person, but why do I want to stab you in the neck with a pencil?
Yeah. Oh, that's totally justified. We're going to take a hard left into story time. Okay.
Yes. Let's take it. Right, not the right, because you'll be stuck in the line for the Raising Cane's, but hard left.
All right. This week, Amber, another listener submitted a story.
Heck yeah.
Heck yes. Okay, and this is a good one. Oh, God, I love our listener story because they're just so relatable. So we were told because of budget cuts, there would be some restructuring. Teams would merge and some people would move into entirely different positions if their work was going away, and it was scary. But we were also told that our input mattered. We were encouraged to share feedback and ideas to make the transition smoother and to ensure that people were placed where they would be most effective. It started in our individual team meetings. We talked through suggestions and raised some concerns, and our manager collected all of it, and he told us that he would share it up. From there, we got the occasional updates at our monthly department meetings, but they were always really vague, and it always had the same disclaimer that nothing will take effect right away. We're still working out all the details. Months went by, there were no real updates, just the exact same messaging on repeat. Then, one morning we came in. We opened our emails, and just like that, everybody had a message telling them who they were now reporting to, what their new title was, if it was changing, and where they were being placed. And at the bottom, it was signed, "Please do not respond to this email as this is an unmonitored mailbox." So caring. It was absolute madness. What was the point of asking for our input if the outcome was going to be random musical chairs? Was it all just for show? Yikes. Like massive yikes, Amber. And I'm going to tell, like, my first impression too, as somebody who's kind of been like behind the scenes in these things, I think leaders in HR, like they were coming up to the deadline when they needed to have things taken effect and they didn't have it figured out. So it was we're just going to do a thing. I'm telling you, that's how it was. And likely it was probably something along the lines of they needed to get a certain like buy-in from, a certain percentage of people. And if it wasn't perfect, they just kept, okay, we'll continue to have talks. Well, you can't talk forever. You got to have a plan. You got to come up with the thing. And something tells me they were butted up to a time, like up to that deadline, and they just had to go with whatever draft plan that they had in mind. But from an employee perspective, that like, I can't imagine. That's so upsetting to just come in one morning and then like the callousness too of like, please don't respond to this email. This is an unmonitored mailbox.
Right? Because the people that you would talk to about it can't do anything, right? Like your peers or maybe even your supervisor who had nothing to do. Maybe they're just also finding out about it. Or maybe you have a new supervisor as a result of that, right? Like, and so if exactly. And you get the callous email, you get this disruptive change that's impacting your life, then what are you left with? You have nothing to be nice about.
Yeah.
Nothing. Oh, nothing that offers.
Nothing got done that day. Guaranteed that was like, maybe even that week. I'll be honest, because not everybody was in on that day. I'm certain of it. And so there are people who are
mental health days.
Yeah, or they're getting text messages from their colleagues like, you'll never believe when you come in. Like, you know what I mean? It's scary. It's disruptive. It's chaotic. And I think it's really upsetting because, like I said, I think there's a lot of responsibility on leaders to be better than that. To not only share when something like this is happening, like be more intentional with their messaging, like as far as, hey, like we've got some rough draft plans, but it's not perfect. And, maybe give some information about like what people could kind of expect. Like that would have been nice. But to always have the same thing over and over and over again and to be blindsided when you come in on a Monday morning or whatever it is, that it's very upsetting from an employee perspective too, who has gone to meetings, shared ideas, shared input, and it's like often not taken into consideration. And I don't get feedback on that input either as to like why or why not that, it may or may not be feasible. It's discouraging. Like, so then I'm less likely to show up to the next time you ask for people to come into this open forum type call and share ideas. I'm not going to do it,
Right. No. And I think that you definitely have a point about the feedback loop. It's never closed because it's never a loop. It's just kind of like it's just a one-way, like
into the void,
box, right?
Yes.
We are going to take your suggestions, but then nothing happens and then you don't have follow-up and you just don't know where it goes. There is no loop that is occurring or there is no understanding of what somebody really wants or even if you know what they're going to say and it's not, and you've had the conversation with them, right? Because I do have an experience of an individual who would just keep saying the same thing.
Over and over and over. Yes.
How many times, like, it's like, that is not something that can occur. Like, it does not compute for them. That's the one thing that and it's like, if that's the one thing, then you might need to go find somewhere out. Like, so that that becomes something that they stand on. And so, like, if I were to zoom out, though, in this scenario and take the business approach, which kind of feels chaotic to me, right? And being the employee, if you're going to work from this kind of cynical perspective of employees are going to be upset in either way, we're just going to do it the easiest way. We're not going to accept the feedback. We're not going to, and I bet you're right. There was a deadline, and that they just came up upon it and they're like, look, at least we're dealing with one emotion instead of a multitude of emotions that people might have around this. And so they're probably just taking, honestly, the easiest path with the assumption, the cynical assumption that if we can't make everybody happy, then we're just going to make everybody upset. I was just going to say, I think that there's also in this story too, I can see a very, very clear divide between business and the HR side of it. So business decisions are not always made with the people in mind.
No,
it's a business
usually
decision,
it's not.
Right?
Yeah,
right. So like the humanness of how that we react to business decisions, right, is kind of where that management comes in. And so, no wonder it feels cold and callous, is because there wasn't the finesse of a human touch applied to that business decision. So,
and they even said in the beginning, like, due to budget cuts. So we know that like all of the motivation for this is like financial. It's $. It has nothing to do with you. Has nobody can, like, from their point of view, like, you don't matter.
Or
you don't. Your position, but you, the person sitting in that position, you're not who we're thinking about.
Okay, so since we've been talking a lot about kind of like the leader perspective here, and kind of where we're going with business and all this, right? Like, I am curious, right? As I am as a coachy coach, is that in decisions and in these things that are being made, are you as a leader, so it's from the leader perspective, are you energizing your people or just exciting them? And do you know the difference?
Well, you tell, like, so what is your definition of the two? Because I kind of see them like almost like synonyms. So like, what's the difference for you?
Yeah. So the difference for me would be like energizing them to be able to start making decisions for themselves, and you sit back and support that. So it's like you are the charge that they can come back to charge their batteries to keep going, like the Energizer Bunny, right? Right?
Yeah.
And so you are their source for keeping their energy going. And excitement is fleeting. It is more of that chaos. It is more of a up and down. Like we are excited and then it drops. And we are excited and it drops. And so your role as the leader is just to come in and be like, there's change coming. There's change coming. There's change coming. And you excite them. But then you don't do any of the follow-up to keep the momentum to where you are kind of like running on an even keel, as if you were energizing them.
Interesting.
Which you can still share the information, but then you're offering a support structure that keeps them engaged. It keeps them running, and it keeps them like knowing what they're doing and toiling in a really, I don't want to call it a happy fashion, but they're toiling along without big drops and ups and downs, and kind of like watching them drop and then bringing them back up again and watching them drop. It's really like, it's just fueled by chaos. And so, like, I don't know if individuals know that they might do that.
Yeah, I don't think that they do. And especially mid-level managers, that's a tough job. I definitely empathize with mid-level managers who, unfortunately, they usually are not like invited to those conversations that are happening, like usually in situations like this, the story that we shared, they're just told, hey, implement this thing. And like they didn't get to provide input either, but then they have to explain it to their employees. It's a very awkward position to be in. And so I will say they have a very tough job to keep that energy going, like you said. And I do think there's a lot of people who take that job not realizing they think like of it as like the job piece, not in terms of like the leadership responsibility piece. And like you have a lot of responsibility when you're that person to, like you said, support your employees, keep that engagement going. You're not just here to, okay, I'm assigning this workout. Great. We'll talk again next week. It shouldn't be like that. I don't want to say it's not like that, because it is, unfortunately, for a lot of people, but it shouldn't be like that. There's not enough emphasis on the responsibility, the leadership responsibility piece of those jobs. So I like that question. That's very thought provoking. And your your explanation of the two kind of like made me see now because I always thought of them as very similar, but you're right. Excitement is like, that's that when I go and they're like, hey, we want your ideas. Great. I'm here. But then like when that call's over, I'm always like, I'm done. I'm not energized to like, oh man, now I'm excited to do these other things. No, like it's gone now. Now I'm going to get back to the grind and do my other stuff, you know? So very true. Very true.
Get dropped off, right?
Dropped off. The call's ended. The excitement's over.
And if you're an employee and you are in a situation where this is happening, like from your leader or whatever, then maybe it's something that gives you language and words to approach, to be like, can I offer a suggestion? Like you might not be in a safe environment to do that, but if you are, it could be worth offering a suggestion for what you need. From your, right? If you consider your boss a little bit more on the boring side and you need a little bit more excitement, like what does excitement mean to you, and what are you looking for in terms of that excitement? Or if you get too much excitement and you're looking for more of that steady pace, well, then what does that look like? And I say look like is like, what types of actions would initiate that feeling and emotion for you that you're looking to feel energized? And if you don't feel energized, well, how much of it is your responsibility, right? And how much of it is it theirs? And what can they do? And what can you do in turn? Because it's not just one person making you feel energized, right?
Yeah.
Like it's also kind of like once you feel energized, then what do you do with that energy to also keep it in motion? Because that's how the cycle keeps going, is that your energy then supports the supervisor or manager, whatever that might look like for you, into feeling energized by their employees to then keep that. So and then that's where those really wonderful feedback loops actually get built as a loop. But
I like that both people, like the employee and supervisor, both have have a stake in this. You both have responsibility here. I do think it would be nice if more supervisors would encourage employees to share those needs or to at least think about what do they need. Because I don't think employees always think about it. So it was a good point that you brought up of hey, reflect on these things. What do you need to recharge your battery? Because I really like that imagery.
This was an opportunity. This story is obviously awful. And it could be used as an example of what not to do. For certain. But it also could be and when you're thinking of how it could be better, is a way that you can kind of invoke what's going to energize kind of in the future. And it's okay, so this really crappy thing happened to us, because it could also be the solidifying thing. Look, we're all in this really crappy scenario, right? This has all happened to all of us. What can we do together? Just because you're in this one particular role doesn't mean that you have, especially if you're a mid manager, supervisor, just because you're in that role does not mean you have to be everything to all of your employees. You don't, and because that's a lot of pressure. So why don't you help yourself by finding the other people who are doing good at the things that you're not good at? But just kind of understand where your strengths and weaknesses are. And when you've got a weakness, it doesn't have to be a weakness to everybody.
No, and I think that's a leadership skill that anybody could have. It's not something that's just supervisors, is to be able to recognize your blind spots, lift people up who have those skills and, you can lean on or rely on to accomplish whatever, because they are good in these particular areas. It's a great networking skill just for anybody to have, but especially leaders to recognize those those talents and others and sort of build that up. No, you're not going to have every skill under the sun and be amazing at everything. That's impossible. So, and I think that's good for anybody. Absolutely.
But that's where ego gets in the way. If they want to be the person that's everybody, then
I know several people like that.
You just gotta, and well, because they're in the position for the wrong reason is my thinking. That's my first reaction to that, right? Some of those positions are power rather than purpose. Hopefully this has been helpful for everybody, but
been helpful for me.
If you want it to continue, we have places that you can connect with us. So we have an Instagram where we kind of share what our schedule is at, and when we're looking for new topic ideas, for you to kind of fill out a form and help us with that. So you can connect with us on Instagram. If you really want a closer connection to us, you're going to want to come to our Reddit. We are offering post-episode questions and just kind of more engagement related to our episode topics and content. So if there's something that you're you didn't say this, you didn't mention this, tell us in the Reddit. And we also love memes. So meme currency is the highest price right now on our Reddit. We love it when you share memes. But like I said, we've got poll questions and additional questions that we ask that we would have wished we had more time to cover and kind of bring up in the episode. So join us on our subreddit for that engagement. We are also obviously on YouTube, where you're seeing us here. And then we also have a TikTok. So if TikTok is more your jam, and you want to watch our little videos, then you can find us in all of those places. And if you are loving us, we love you for that. And we would love for you to share the love by telling all your peeps to come and find us, check us out, laugh with us, shake your fist at us, whatever this response is. And I'm all blurry now. I did a duck and a hide from the fist, right? Apparently.
There we go. There we go.
Now I'm back. So apparently if you, I guess, shake a fist at your camera, it's
not in the foreground. Do it in the background.
And right, coming in.
coming in hot. Anyway, so the point of that is just to say, subscribe. And so we are Sanity Pending Podcast. I am Amber, and this is Holly. And remember, if you've not throat punched somebody this week, it's been a great week. Bye.